The camera flash was so bright it felt like a punch. "Megan Harrison, any comment on your drunk driving incident last night?" The voice was a sneer, attached to a man I'd never seen, holding a TMZ camera. My blood didn't just run cold, it evaporated. "What incident?" "I was home all night. But to understand why this was happening, why I was being served up like an appetizer on my own family's lawn, you have to understand the party. You have to understand my family." It was a sweltering June afternoon at our Georgetown mansion in Washington, D.C., the kind of day where the air is so thick with humidity and expensive perfume you could barely breathe. And this wasn't just my graduation party. In my family, nothing is ever just a party. It was a fundraiser. My father, Harrison, was in the final, brutal stretch of his run for governor, and every single person on that lawn was a calculation. A donor, a lobbyist, or a friend from the Hill. In my family, you are one of two things, an asset or a liability. My twin sister, Amanda, was the ultimate asset. She was gliding through the crowd in a white linen dress, her blonde hair perfect, her smile blinding. I watched her laugh, a light, tinkling sound, as she charmed Senator Thompson from Virginia. Amanda was a work of art. Polished, perfect, and utterly ruthless. She was the daughter they'd be putting on the campaign posters. And then, there was me. I was in the corner, by the bar, in a faded black dress that my mother, Catherine, had forgotten to have dry cleaned. I was Megan, the rebel artist. The liability. The girl with the black hair and the bad attitude who just wouldn't fall in line. I was the stain they couldn't quite scrub out of the family portrait. I could feel my mother's eyes on me from across the lawn. That cold, disappointed stare that said, "Why are you like this? Why can't you just be like her?" The air was getting tighter. My father was moving toward the small stage, readying the microphone for a speech. I knew what was coming, the gushing praise for Amanda, the perfect daughter. I saw Amanda look over at me. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was just watching. Her eyes were as flat and cold as slate. It was a look I'd never seen before, a look of calculation. She knew something was about to happen. And that's when he appeared. The camera flash. The punch. The accusation. "We have sources, Megan," the reporter snarled, shoving the mic closer. "Saying you were pulled over and your father made it go away. Are you an alcoholic, Megan?" The entire party went silent. 100 pairs of eyes, donors, senators, my father, all staring at me. I was speechless, suffocating, drowning in their judgment. And that's when I saw her. Across the lawn, Amanda. She was still watching me. A tiny, satisfied smile played on her lips. Then, she locked eyes with me and gave the TMZ reporter a subtle, celebratory thumbs up. Ting, ting, ting. The sound of my father's silver spoon hitting his champagne glass was the only thing that could silence a Georgetown fundraiser. The fake laughter died instantly. The air, already thick with the smell of roses and impending rain, suddenly felt charged. This was it. The show part of the show. "Friends, my father, Harrison," boomed. His governor voice was on, that smooth, practiced, DC insider voice that made billionaires open their checkbooks. "Catherine and I, we are just so proud today." The phone cameras raised. A CNN crew in the back switched on their floodlight. I flinched, pulling back into the shade of the oak tree, my black dress already making me invisible. My father put his arm around my twin sister, Amanda. She glowed. She tilted her head, her blonde hair catching the light, her smile a perfect, practiced 100-watt beam. She was the asset. "As you know," he said, "this campaign isn't just about us. It's about the future. And no one represents that bright future better than my daughter, Amanda." I felt a familiar, hot twist in my gut. I glanced at my mother, Catherine. She wasn't watching her husband. She was watching me. Her eyes were laser beams, holding one silent message. "Don't you dare. Don't you dare embarrass us, Megan." "That's why," Harrison continued, his voice swelling with pride, "I am so proud to announce that we are sending Amanda on a special campaign outreach tour of Europe." The lawn erupted. It wasn't polite political applause. It was a roar. Senator Thompson, a man who hadn't smiled since 1998, was cheering. Donors from McLean and Arlington raised their glasses, the sunlight glinting off their Rolexes. She'll be studying international policy in London and Brussels, my father lied, his face a mask of paternal devotion. And bringing those vital ideas right back here to the Commonwealth. I almost choked on my lukewarm club soda. International policy? The only policy Amanda was interested in was how to get a VIP table in Ibiza or the fastest way to the Gucci flagship in Milan. It was a lie. A beautiful, shimmering, perfect lie for the cameras. The brilliant, political daughter. The perfect photo op. I looked at Amanda. She was taking it all in, breathing in the applause, her eyes shining. Her gaze found mine across the lawn. There was no, thank you. No, I'm sorry. Just triumph. A cold, hard, I win you lose triumph. And in that look, I saw something else. A flicker of anticipation. Like this was only part one of the plan. The applause finally died down. My father was still beaming. He let Amanda go. And then he turned. His eyes, my father's eyes, landed on me, still hiding in the shadows. The crowd followed his gaze. But we can't forget my other daughter, he said. The cameras, like a predator sensing weakness, all turned. Click, click, click. The sound was like a gun cocking. He was still smiling, but his eyes were empty. Oh God. What now? The cheers for Amanda finally died, but the silence that replaced them was 1,000 times worse. It was a heavy, wet blanket of silence, and it was pointed right at me. I was still hiding in the shadow of the giant oak tree, my black dress making me almost invisible. But I could feel them. 100 pairs of eyes, donors and politicians, all turning from the asset on the stage to the liability in the corner. And then my mother, Catherine, began to move. She didn't just walk. She glided across that perfectly manicured Georgetown lawn like a shark moving through water. Her frozen, perfect campaign smile was locked in place. The CNN camera and every single iPhone swiveled, tracking her path. Tracking me. A stupid, tiny, naive part of my brain, the part that still wanted a mother, thought, maybe she'll just hug me. Maybe she'll whisper congratulations, and we can just move on. She stopped right in front of me. The smell of her Jo Malone perfume was so strong it made my eyes water. She didn't hug me. Megan, she said. Her voice was just loud enough for the people nearby to hear. She reached into her tiny $1,000 clutch. She wasn't pulling out an envelope. She wasn't pulling out a jewelry box. She pulled out a single, stiff, black and white card. Her fingers, ice cold from her champagne flute, brushed my palm as she pressed it into my hand. I looked down. A $10 Uber gift card. My head snapped up, my eyes searching hers. But they were just flat. Cold. Potomac gray. To stay out of trouble, honey, she whispered. Her voice wasn't just cold. It was sharp. It was an icicle, and she'd just stuck it right between my ribs. I heard it, clear as day. A snicker. From Senator Thompson's aide standing 5 feet away. Then another, a little cough of laughter from a donor's wife. My face burned. My ears were ringing. This wasn't a gift. This was a designation. This was a brand. This is the one who can't be trusted. This is the problem child. This is the one who needs a ride because she's too reckless for her own car. My father handled the asset. My mother was here to brand the liability. I looked at the card, so small and pathetic in my shaking hand. $10. It was so specific. So deliberate. But before I could even find my voice, I saw my sister Amanda, watching us from the porch. She wasn't smiling. She was checking her watch. It wasn't a random look. It was specific. Like she was waiting for something. It felt coordinated. It felt like a cue. And in that moment, with the laughter in my ears and the $10 card in my hand, I suddenly realized this wasn't the end of my humiliation. This was just the beginning. This was the warm-up act. And the real show was about to start. I was still standing under the oak tree. My world shrunk to the 4 corners of the cheap, black and white $10 Uber card in my hand. It was burning. Not just with my own humiliation, but with the cheap, plasticky heat of the June afternoon. The snickers from the donors had faded, but I could still feel their eyes on me, their whispers like wasps. "There's the problem child. $10. That's all she's worth." I just wanted to disappear. To fold myself up into nothing and vanish from that Georgetown lawn. And that's when the smell hit me. It wasn't the roses or the expensive champagne. It was cheap, sharp, and sickeningly sweet. The kind of cologne you smell in a 7-Eleven at 2 in the morning. It was so out of place, it made me look up. He was right there. I didn't even see him approach. He was just materialized. A sweaty man in a wrinkled suit, shoving a microphone in my face. And then, the light. A camera light so bright, so violent, it felt like a punch. It physically threw me back a step. I raised my hand, the $10 card still clutched in it, to shield my eyes. Megan Harrison. His voice was a sneer, loud and grating, designed to cut through the party noise. "Any comment on your drunk driving incident last night?" The world stopped. It didn't just get quiet. It stopped. The birds, the music, the chatter, everything vanished. The only sound was the ringing in my ears and the click-click-click of his camera. "What?" It was the only word I could push out. It wasn't even a word. It was just air. I was home all night. I was in my room, listening to music, dreading this stupid party. I hadn't been in a car in 2 days. "We have sources," he sneered, shoving the mic so close it almost touched my lips. "Sources saying you were pulled over, wasted, and that your father, the governor candidate, made it go away. Are you an alcoholic, Megan?" Alcoholic. The word hung in the humid air, foul and heavy. I could feel them. 100 pairs of eyes. The donors. The senators. My father's political rivals. My mother. The silence was a physical weight, pressing down on me. I was frozen. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It was a nightmare. This was a nightmare. How did he get in? Who let him in? My eyes darted around, desperate, searching for anyone. My father, who was frozen by the stage, his face a mask of shock. My mother, her hand over her pearls, her eyes wide with horror. And then, I saw her. I saw my sister. I was drowning. The TMZ reporter's voice was a buzzsaw in my ear, "Alcoholic. Made it go away. Comment, Megan?" But I couldn't hear the words anymore. All I could feel was the blinding pop-pop-pop of his flash, like little explosions in my face. The air was gone. I was suffocating in the sudden, absolute silence of 100 DC power players staring at me, judging me. My eyes, desperate, scanned the crowd for an anchor, for anyone. I saw my father, Harrison, frozen by the stage. His face was a perfect mask of pained, fatherly concern. But it was too perfect. It was the same face he made when a poll in Fairfax County came back 2 points lower than he wanted. It wasn't real. I saw my mother, Catherine, clutching her pearl necklace so hard her knuckles were white. Her face wasn't worried. It was furious. But her fury, her laser beam stare, wasn't aimed at the reporter who had just invaded her home. It was aimed at me. No, this can't be happening. And then, my eyes found her. My twin, Amanda. She was standing safe, untouched, by the marble bar, holding a tall, crystal glass of champagne. She wasn't being shoved. She wasn't being blinded. She was just watching. Her face was a masterpiece. It was a perfect, neutral mask of sisterly worry. The kind of look you'd give someone who'd just spilled wine on the carpet. "Oh, that's a shame." My brain was screaming. "Amanda, help me. Do something." I locked eyes with her across the lawn. The world narrowed to just the two of us. The ringing in my ears was so loud I thought I'd pass out. She saw me. She knew I was watching. And then, she did it. It was tiny. It was almost invisible. She smiled. Not a real smile. A tight, satisfied smirk that lasted less than a second. Then, she raised her hand, the one not holding the champagne. She gave a little thumbs up. My mind couldn't process it. Is she encouraging me? But the gesture wasn't for me. Her eyes flicked, just for a millisecond, past me. To the reporter. It was a signal. Good job. Mission accomplished. Oh, God. In that instant, The sound of the party rushed back in, but it was muffled, like I was hearing it from underwater. The $10 Uber card to stay out of trouble. Amanda, checking her watch right before he appeared. My father's practiced face. My mother's rage. This wasn't an attack. This wasn't bad luck. This was an operation. The reporter was a pawn. The $10 card was a prop. And my sister, my twin sister, had just given the pawn his signal. But Amanda wasn't smart enough to pull this off alone. My gaze snapped from her smirking face, back to my father. He wasn't frozen anymore. He was waiting for his cue. I wasn't just the liability. I was the sacrifice. The click 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 of the camera flash was the only sound I could hear. The reporter's voice, Amanda's thumbs up, my father's practiced concern, it all just fused into a single, blinding, white-hot moment of absolute clarity. The rebel in me didn't just get angry. She didn't get loud. She just died. She evaporated on that Georgetown lawn, right next to the wilting rose bushes. The part of me that would have screamed, that would have thrown the $10 Uber card in my mother's face, that would have cried. She was just gone. And in her place, something else clicked on. It was quiet. It was cold. It was still. It was the chilling, perfect realization that I wasn't in a family anymore. I was in a war. And they had just, very stupidly, shown me their entire battle plan. They wanted the hysterical, alcoholic, problem child. They had written the part. So, I gave them the performance of their lives. My breath hitched. I let out a gasp that was pure, wounded animal. I let the tears, real, hot tears of rage, not sadness, well up. I looked past the reporter, right at my father. How could you let them do this? I whispered, my voice breaking. Then I bolted. I gave them the shamed daughter, the liability running from the consequences. I shoved past the TMZ reporter, ignoring his shouts. I heard my mother hiss my name, Megan, don't. But I didn't stop. I sprinted across the lawn, up the steps, and into the mansion. I slammed the heavy oak front door. The thud vibrated through the floor. From outside, I heard my father's governor voice boom. Give her a moment. She's distraught. This is a private family matter. Good. I didn't stop in the foyer. I took the back stairs, the servants' stairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was adrenaline. It was fuel. I got to my bedroom. I didn't just close the door. I locked the deadbolt. The heavy click was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. My room, my childhood room, looked like a stranger's. The art on the walls, the books, the old photos of me and her, it was all a lie. A set. My hands were shaking. Not with weakness. With focus. I snatched my phone from the charger. I ignored the texts of sympathy that were already starting to pop up. I swiped past everything. I opened the simple red dot icon, voice memos. I hit record. The little timer started ticking. 001, 002. I knew my family. I knew their one single, fatal flaw. It wasn't their cruelty. It was their arrogance. They wouldn't just be relieved it worked. They would be proud. They would brag about how smart they were, about how they'd handled me and saved the DC election. They would toast to their own brilliance. And I was going to catch every single word. The liability was dead. The spy was born. Now, I just had to go plant the bug. I took one deep, ragged breath. Showtime. I didn't just knock. I hammered on Amanda's bedroom door with both fists, my palms stinging. Amanda, please, let me in. I heard her sigh, a long-suffering sound, before the lock clicked. I burst in. She was already out of her white linen dress, changed into a silk robe, a glass of champagne in one hand. She was celebrating. My God, Megan, what now? She said, her voice dripping with annoyance. I gave her the performance I was born to give. I let the real tears, the hot, angry tears of pure white rage, spill down my cheeks. But I made my voice tremble with fear. Amanda, you have to help me. I sobbed, stumbling into her perfect, cream-colored room. That reporter, he. I let my voice crack, letting a ragged sob shake my entire body. He said I had a DUI. He called me an alcoholic. I put my hands to my head, hysterical. The campaign. Dad's, everything, it's all ruined, and it's all my fault. What do I do? This was the crucial part. It's this stupid party. I shrieked, the lie tasting like acid. I hate this house. I hate them. I ripped off the jean jacket I'd put on just for this purpose. The phone, my old phone, the one they wouldn't miss, was nestled in the breast pocket, its voice memo app silently recording. I flung it. I didn't place it. I didn't toss it. I threw it with all the fake, hysterical rage I could summon. It tumbled through the air and landed in a perfect, messy heap, right in the center of her white bedspread. The trap was set. My heart was hammering so loud I was sure she could hear it. Don't look at the jacket. Don't look at the phone. Stay in character. Amanda hadn't even flinched. She was enjoying this. She watched me cry for a long, cold second. Then a slow, pitying smile crossed her face. She walked over, not to the jacket, but to her vanity. She plucked a single tissue from a silver box and held it out to me. "Oh, Megan," she said. Her voice was a purr. A low, condescending, cat that ate the canary purr. "You are just, always so dramatic." I looked up, my eyes wide and helpless. And I saw it. Her eyes. They weren't worried. They weren't kind. They were gleaming. It was the cold, bright, predatory shine of a Wall Street trader who just bankrupted a rival. She loved this. She loved seeing me broken. She patted my shoulder, a gesture that was more of a push. "Don't worry your pretty, little, messed-up head," she cooed. "Dad will fix this. He always does." I had to get out. Now. I think I'm going to be sick, I stammered, covering my mouth. I fled the room, slamming the door behind me, leaving my jacket, my phone, and my spy lying in the very center of the enemy's camp. I didn't run to my room. I ran to the guest bathroom on the main floor, the one tucked away behind the library, the one nobody ever used. It was the smartest place. No one would ever look for the hysterical, sobbing daughter in a cold, marble powder room. I slammed the heavy door and clicked the deadbolt. The silence was so loud it was like a scream. I sank down, my back sliding against the cold, marble-tiled wall, and finally, let out the breath I'd been holding. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely stand it. Outside that door, the party was still happening. The muffled sound of Frank Sinatra, the clink-clink-clink of ice in glasses, the low murmur of political gossip. They had already moved on. The Megan show was over, just a momentary diversion. Please let them talk. Please let them be stupid. I sat on that cold, unforgiving floor. The minutes didn't just crawl. They bled into each other. 1 hour. My leg was completely asleep, a dead, tingling weight. I could hear the first round of car doors slamming, the big money donors from Potomac and McLean, the ones who never stayed late, were leaving. Is the battery dead? God, what if the phone died? What if she found it? What if she looked in the jacket? What if they're all waiting for me, ready to call me a liar, a spy? This was the hardest part. Not the ambush. Not the $10 card. The wait. It was the longest night of my life, sitting on that cold, honeycomb tile, listening to the slow death of my own graduation party. 2 hours. The music was off. The staff was cleaning. Then, I heard it. Footsteps. Inside the house. Coming up the grand staircase. Laughter. It was Amanda's laugh, that high-pitched, tinkling sound that always made her sound so innocent. But she wasn't alone. A man's voice, deep and smooth. Flawless, Harrison. Absolutely flawless. The press ate it up. I knew that voice. Mark. My father's campaign manager. And then, her. She totally bought it, my mother, Catherine said. Her voice, no longer sharp, was light, triumphant. The $10 Uber card was the perfect touch, Mark. It proves we already knew she was a risk. The perfect sacrificial lamb. My heart didn't just stop. It seized. They were celebrating. They were in the upstairs hallway, toasting to my execution. I heard their footsteps move away, toward my father's study. To break out the good whiskey, no doubt. This was it. My body was moving before my brain caught up. I didn't feel my numb leg. I eased the deadbolt. The click sounded like a gunshot in the silent house. I slipped into the dark hallway. Empty. Amanda's door was at the far end, slightly ajar. Her room was dark. Empty. She must have gone with them. I didn't breathe. I just moved. I was a ghost. I slipped into her room. The air stank of her champagne. And there it was. My jean jacket. A messy, black heap on her perfect, white comforter. My hand shot out, grabbing it. I felt the hard, rectangular shape of the phone, still in the breast pocket. It was there. I didn't run. I walked. I walked down the grand staircase, past the oil paintings of my lying family. I walked right out the heavy front door, into the thick, humid DC night. I had the jacket clutched in my hand like a stolen, still beating heart. I had the proof. I had them. The thud of my old Honda's door was the first real sound I'd heard in hours. I jammed the lock. Click. I was parked 3 blocks down from the mansion, under a flickering DC streetlight that buzzed like a dying wasp. The air in the car was already hot and thick, sticking to my skin. But I felt cold. I was freezing from the inside out. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to untangle my cheap earbuds. I had the jean jacket in my lap. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I pulled the old phone from the breast pocket. The screen was black. Please have battery. Please have battery. Please. I pressed the side button. The screen glowed. The voice memos app was still open. Recording. 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 37 seconds. My heart wasn't just hammering. It was trying to escape my body. I plugged the earbuds in, shoved them deep into my ears, and hit the tiny, triangular play button. At first, it was just noise. Muffled sounds. My own fake sobs. The click of Amanda's door. And then, silence. A long, long silence. Just the faint sound of the party downstairs. Come on. Talk. I scrubbed forward. 1 hour, 90 minutes. And then, clink. The sound of glasses. Laughter. My mother's laugh. She totally bought it. The voice was Amanda's. But it wasn't her sister voice. It was a cold, high, triumphant sound I'd never heard before. She giggled. The hysterical routine. She's the perfect sacrificial lamb. A man's voice. Deep. Mark. The campaign manager. The polls are going to soar, he said, his voice smooth and satisfied. Harrison handles this crisis like a strong, compassionate father. This is how we win Virginia. I stopped breathing. My hand was clamped over my mouth. Oh God. Oh God. And then, the kill shot. The $10 Uber card was the perfect touch, Mark. It was my mother. Her voice wasn't hysterical. It wasn't angry. It was proud. It was the same voice she used when she'd won a silent auction at a Sotheby's benefit. It proves we already knew she was a risk, Catherine said, her voice light and airy. It makes it all look so authentic. The press will eat it up. There was another clink of glasses. And the Europe trip is perfect timing, Amanda chimed in. I'll be well out of the splash zone when the real story hits the post tomorrow. I ripped the earbuds out. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't do anything. I just sat there in the suffocating DC humidity, my $10 Uber card still clutched in my right hand, the recording of my own execution clutched in my left. They weren't just letting a scandal happen. They built it. They built it, and my mother, had supplied the props. I looked up, through my cracked windshield, at the glittering lights of the mansion, 3 blocks away. It wasn't my home anymore. It was enemy headquarters. My phone, the burner I'd bought with cash from a 7-Eleven, buzzed at 6:01 a.m. It was the Washington Post breaking news alert. Governor candidate Harrison's daughter in drunk driving scandal. Staffers allege cover-up. They were fast. I was parked on a side street in Rosslyn, Virginia, my neck aching from a night spent wedged against the cold glass of my Honda's passenger window. The air in the car was thick and sour with the smell of old coffee and my own fear. I hadn't slept. I just existed. I'd spent 7 hours listening to the recording over and over. My mother's proud, cold voice. Amanda's tinkling laugh. Mark's satisfied. This is how we win. My hands weren't just shaking anymore. They were rocks. Heavy, dead, and cold. Showtime. I didn't bother changing. The ashamed daughter wouldn't have. I used the tiny, cracked visor mirror to smear last night's mascara, tears of rage now repurposed as tears of shame. I raked my fingers through my black hair, making it look worse. I looked broken. I looked exactly like they wanted me to. I drove across the Key Bridge right into the Lion's Den, the Arlington campaign headquarters. The second I pushed through those giant glass doors, the chatter stopped. The entire, massive, open-plan office, 100 interns, staffers, and volunteers, went silent. Every single. I heard the whispers. That's her. Saw her on the post. What a mess. I kept my head down. I made my shoulders hunch. I shuffled my feet as I walked toward his office, playing the part of the liability, the problem. His assistant, a young woman named Sarah who usually looked at me with open contempt, just stared. Her face was a mask of pity. He's waiting for you, she stammered. The door to his corner office was already open. He was in there. And so was Mark. They were both sipping coffee, looking fresh, like they'd just slept 10 hours. Mark, my father said, not looking at me, could you give us a moment? His voice was calm, controlled. Presidential. Mark stood, his face unreadable. He walked past me, squeezing my shoulder just a little too hard. Hang in there, kid, he whispered. The hypocrisy was so thick I could barely breathe. The door clicked shut. I was alone with my father. He didn't yell. He didn't ask, is it true? He knew it wasn't. He just walked over, his face a perfect mask of pained, fatherly compassion. It was the same face he'd used for the CNN interview after the Virginia floods. He put his heavy hand on my shoulder. It didn't feel like a comfort. It felt like a brand. Megan, he said, his voice a low, disappointed rumble. Megan, you made a mistake. A big mistake. He gestured to the Washington Post on his desk, my scandal above the fold. But I'm going to fix it, he said. He squeezed my shoulder. That's what a father does. That's what a family does. He looked me right in the eyes, his own eyes shining with fake sincerity. We protect each other, Megan. Understand? We protect each other. It was a lie. It was a threat. It was a script. And he was waiting for my line. I forced the tears. I'm so sorry, Dad, I choked out. I'll do anything. His face relaxed. The compassionate father had won. Good, he said, his voice turning brisk. I'll handle the press. You go home. Your mother is worried sick about you. Oh, God. He was sending me to her. He was sending me to the next level of the con. I did what he said. I went home. The Georgetown mansion was silent. The staff, under strict orders, avoided my gaze, their eyes down as if my shame was contagious. My room, the one I'd grown up in, felt like a cheap motel room. A stage. I'd been in my room for 3 hours, crying, just waiting. I'd already backed up the audio file from the old phone onto 3 different cloud accounts and a thumb drive I'd hidden in an old bottle of aspirin. The evidence was safe. Now, I just had to survive the play. I heard her footsteps on the hardwood floor long before she arrived. They were slow, deliberate, measured. Not the steps of a worried sick mother. The steps of an actress about to walk on stage. The door didn't just open. It creaked. She always loved a dramatic entrance. And there she was. Catherine. My mother. She wasn't wearing her fundraiser clothes. She changed into a simple, modest, cream-colored cashmere sweater. Morning clothes. And in her hand, oh God, I almost laughed. A Bible. Her grandfather's old, heavy, leather-bound King James Bible. The one she only touched for photo ops and Christmas cards. I was on my bed, knees pulled to my chest, face buried. I gave her a good, solid, broken shudder as she entered. I looked up, my eyes, which I'd purposely rubbed raw, were red and puffy. Mom? I whispered, my voice a perfect, trembling, lost child sound. She didn't rush to me. She didn't hug me. She glided to the window, looked out at the Potomac for a long, thoughtful moment, and then sat, stiff-backed, on the edge of my bed, as if she didn't want to get contaminated by my failure. She placed the Bible on her lap, her manicured hand resting on the gold cross. "We need to pray for your strength, Megan," she said. Her voice, it was wrong. It was breathy. It was soft and pious. It was a voice I'd never heard her use on me. I just stared at her. "What?" "You have brought a great test to this family," she continued, her eyes focused on the wall, not on me. "A trial of our faith. But we will endure." She paused, as if waiting for an amen. "We will find the strength. We will forgive." And that's when it hit me. Like a bucket of ice water, so cold it burned. She wasn't talking to me. She was rehearsing. This was her speech. This was her soundbite. For the Christian Women's Leadership Brunch. For the Today Show. For Dateline. I wasn't her daughter. I was her audience. My God, she was good. She was better than my father. She was actually believing her own performance. As she was droning on about grace and redemption, my real phone, the burner, tucked under my pillow, gave a single, silent vibrate. I didn't even look. I just knew. I waited for her to finish her prayer. "Lord, guide this lost child." She stood, gave me a cold pat on the head, and glided out. The second the door clicked shut, I snatched the phone. One new text. From an unknown international number. "Hey Meg. Heard what happened. So sorry. Just landed in London. Dad's going to handle it, right? Stay strong. XX. It was Amanda. Out of the splash zone. Stay strong. I looked at the Bible she'd accidentally left on my nightstand. This wasn't just a political cover-up anymore. This was a crusade. And I was the sinner they were all about to save. For 3 days, I was a ghost. My world shrunk to the 4 walls of my bedroom in that silent Georgetown mansion. I was a prisoner, playing the part of the ashamed daughter so perfectly that I think, on some level, my jailers actually believed it. The outside world was a storm. I'd watch the news on mute. CNN, Fox News, The Washington Post, my scandal was everywhere. The TMZ reporter's grainy video of me was on a loop. And the worst part? The horrifying part? It was working. My father's poll numbers went up. He'd hit a sympathy bump. Virginia voters loved the narrative, the strong, compassionate father handling his lost, problem child. They weren't just surviving the scandal, they were thriving on it. My counseling sessions were just coaching. My father would sit on my bed, his face a mask of pained concern. "It's not about the truth, Megan," he'd counsel me. "It's about the narrative. And right now, the narrative is family forgiveness. You just have to look redeemable." My mother, she'd come in and pray for me, her hand resting on the King James Bible she now carried everywhere. Her voice was soft and pious, her eyes closed, but she wasn't praying to God. She was rehearsing her lines for the reporters she knew were coming. And while they counseled and prayed for the prop, I was in my bathroom, door locked, steam from the shower fogging the mirror, my burner phone plugged into the wall. I had my cheap earbuds in, and I was listening to the recording. Over. And over. And over. I wasn't just listening to it. I was memorizing it. I was learning the rhythm of my mother's laugh. The exact moment Mark said, "This is how we win." The giggle Amanda gave when she said, "Sacrificial lamb." On the 3rd day, the call came. It wasn't on my burner. It was on my real phone. The one I knew they were monitoring for my safety. The name on the screen made my stomach feel like it was full of wet concrete. Mark, campaign. I let it ring 3 times. I took a deep, shaky breath. Hello. I whispered, my voice a perfect, trembling, broken thing. "Megan." His voice was all business. Crisp. Cold. "Big day tomorrow." What do you mean?" "Your father is going to address this. Finally. Put this whole thing to bed." I could hear him smiling. "Where?" I asked. "Not here," he said, and I could hear the pride in his voice. "We're going big. The state capitol. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Live. The state capitol." Oh my God. They weren't just using me, they were making me a spectacle. My silence was perfect. It was the silence of fear. Megan, he pressed. You still there? I don't know if I can. I choked out. You can, he said, his voice hardening. You will. Your father needs you by his side. He's going to forgive you. You just stand there, look ashamed, and cry a little. Can you do that? He was asking me to be the prop for their final, triumphant scene. This was it. The call to the stage. They were handing me the microphone. They were handing me the knife. Yes, I whispered, letting my voice crack with a sob. Yes, Mark. I'll be there. I hung up. I agreed to walk to my own execution. And I couldn't wait. The black Chevy Suburban rolled to a stop at the curb. The second my security guard opened the door, the sound hit me. It wasn't just shouting. It was a roar. A physical, living wall of noise from 100 reporters crammed onto the steps of the state capitol. They were a sea of cameras and microphones, a single, churning monster that had been waiting days to feed. And I was the meal. Megan. Is it true? Governor, why did you cover it up? Megan, are you going to rehab? The questions were just static. The lights were the real attack. 100 white-hot, blinding interrogation lamps, all focused on me. They were so bright, they burned my skin. I stumbled on the curb, just like I was coached. My ashamed, broken part. And my father was instantly there. His arm didn't just go around my shoulder. It clamped down. It was a cage. His fingers dug into my shoulder, a grip of pure, unadulterated possession. It wasn't a hug of comfort. It was the grip of a handler securing a valuable, unstable asset. It was a silent, physical message. You will not deviate from the script. It's okay, Megan, he murmured, his voice low and comforting for the boom mics now hovering just inches above our heads. I'm right here. I've got you. Oh, you've got me all right. He marched me through the chaos. My mother, Catherine, was on his other side, a perfect, pale vision of the wronged but faithful political wife. She was clutching her King James Bible to her chest like a shield. She'd brought her prop. We reached the podium. It was a dark, bristling forest of microphones, all aimed at the seal of the Commonwealth of Virginia. My father let go of my shoulder, only to grip the podium with both hands. He looked out at the sea of press. And his face, my God, his face. He was a phenomenal actor. He wasn't Harrison, the ruthless D.C. politician anymore. He was the father. The heartbroken, pained, but resolute father. His eyes were shining with unshed tears. I'd bet my $10 Uber card he'd used Visine in the car. His jaw was tight with pained resolve. He looked exactly like a man who was about to heroically save his broken, lost, problem child daughter from her own demons. He looked exactly like the man the Virginia polls were falling in love with. The entire crowd went silent. The only sound was the click-click-click-click of 1,000 camera shutters. My heart wasn't hammering. It was just still. Ice cold. Waiting. I had the burner phone in my jacket pocket. My thumb was resting on the play button, right on top of the audio file I had renamed, simply, The Truth. My father took a deep, shaky, perfectly acted breath. He leaned into the microphones. And he began. My father leaned into the podium, his face a masterpiece of paternal pain. My daughter Megan is a good kid. He boomed, his voice booming across the state capitol plaza. He let it crack, just a little. A perfect, practiced, fake sincerity. But she's lost. The heat from the CNN and Fox News camera lights was so intense I could feel it through my jacket. I could feel the zoom lenses focusing on me, the lost daughter. This was it. This was my cue. My cue to look ashamed. My cue to cry. My father's hand was still on my shoulder, a heavy, proprietary cage. He gave me a tiny warning squeeze. Play your part, Megan. I looked at him. His eyes were shining for the cameras, full of compassionate resolve. He thought he'd won. He thought he was just one heroic speech away from securing the Virginia governorship, all thanks to the scandal he and my mother had engineered. I could hear the recording in my head, my thumb resting on the burner phone in my pocket. Amanda laughing, she's the perfect sacrificial lamb. My mother, the $10 Uber card was the perfect touch. Mark, this is how we win. My father wasn't done. And in this family, he declared, his voice swelling, we don't abandon our children. We guide them back. He turned to me, his loving gaze locking onto mine. He was waiting for me to nod, to cry, to validate his narrative. This was the moment. The rebel was dead. The spy was done. Now it was the executioner's turn. I moved. It wasn't a stumble. It was a step. One single, deliberate step. I stepped forward, breaking his grip. The cage was open. I heard a gasp. It was my mother's. I walked right past my stunned father. I put my hands on his podium. I was taking the stage. The entire plaza, 100 reporters, went dead silent. This wasn't in the script. My hands were not shaking. I leaned into the forest of bristling microphones. He's right, I said. My voice, it wasn't the whisper they'd heard for 3 days. It was clear. It was cold. It was loud. It echoed across the Capitol steps, amplified 100 times. My father's face, oh God. The pained mask evaporated. It was replaced, for one beautiful, terrible second, by pure, unadulterated panic. He reached for my arm, Megan. I turned and looked right into his real, terrified eyes. I am lost, I said, my voice dropping just enough to make them lean in. I'm lost, because my own family planted this story. The collective gasp from the press was a thunderclap. And I said, my hand pulling the burner phone from my pocket, have the proof. No. My mother screamed a raw, guttural animal sound. Mark, the campaign manager, lunged from the side. Security. Grab her. Cut the feed. But they were all too slow. Before the first security guard could take a step, before my father's hand could snatch the phone, I held it up. I held it right to the main podium microphone. And I hit play. My family is a national laughingstock. They're ruined. They're all calling, screaming that I don't understand sacrifice for the greater good. But I do. They sacrificed me for a job. So I sacrificed them for the truth. Was I wrong? The click of the play button was deafening in the silence. And then, sound. Not my voice. Not my father's. Amanda's. Her high, tinkling, laughing voice, amplified by 100 microphones, echoed across the state Capitol Plaza. She totally bought it. A wave of confusion washed over the press. Whose voice was that? What was this? Reporters were leaning in, pushing their mics closer to the phone. The hysterical routine. She's the perfect sacrificial lamb. I saw my father's face. The pained mask didn't just drop. It shattered. His eyes, wide with pure, undiluted terror, snapped to me. He lunged. He clawed for the phone. Turn that off. But his voice was drowned out by the next one. Marks. The polls are going to soar. Harrison handles this crisis like a strong, compassionate father. This is how we win Virginia. That was the click. The moment the press understood. Oh my God, a reporter from the Post whispered, his voice caught by the hot mic. And then, the kill shot. My mother's voice. Clear. Cold. Proud. The $10 Uber card was the perfect touch, Mark. It proves we already knew she was a risk. It makes it all look so authentic. It wasn't a gasp from the crowd. It was a tidal wave. It was the sound of 100 sharks all smelling blood at the same time. She planted it, someone shrieked. "It was a fake," screamed another. I looked at my father. His face was gone. It was just a hollow, gray, slack-jawed mask. His career, his life, had just evaporated in 60 seconds. I saw my mother, by the car, her King James Bible clutched to her chest. Her mouth was open in a silent, primal scream. I didn't wait for the chaos. I didn't wait for security. I just dropped the phone. It hit the podium with a loud thud, the audio still playing clink, clink, the sound of their champagne glasses toasting to my sacrifice. A mic drop. I turned. I walked past Mark, the campaign manager, who was frozen in a half lunge, his face the color of ash. I walked down the Capitol steps. The wall of sound, the roar of the press, was behind me now. They weren't screaming at me. They were devouring my family. I was a ghost. I reached the curb, the chaos erupting on the steps behind me like a riot. I pulled out my other phone. The real burner. I opened the Uber app. My fingers, no longer shaking, were perfectly still. I clicked payment. Add promo code. I typed in the 16-digit number from the $10 gift card my mother had given me. Promo applied. $10. A black Toyota Camry was 3 minutes away. My father's career was over before my ride even arrived. My family is a national laughingstock. They're ruined. They're all calling, of course, screaming, sobbing, leaving messages that I don't understand sacrifice for the greater good. But I do. I finally do. They sacrificed me for a job. So I sacrificed them for the truth. Was I wrong?